Welcome to Hero Villains. In your opinion, in a battle between Wally West and Bobby Drake, also known as Iceman, one of the most powerful Omega-level mutants, who is stronger? Wally West represents freedom, limitless speed, and the will to never stop, while Bobby Drake is the embodiment of absolute stillness, limitless hidden power, and the ability to freeze both time and space. Wally West is not merely a man who runs fast, but an entity who has become completely one with the Speed Force, the primordial source of energy behind all movement throughout the DC Multiverse. Bobby Drake is not simply someone who creates ice, but an Omega-level mutant capable of lowering the temperature of all things to absolute zero, a state in which even the laws of physics are forced to stop. To truly understand who will be the last one standing, we need to delve deep into the origins, nature of their powers, psychology, and legendary battles of each character. And let's get started.
First, there is Wally West, the Flash. Wally West is not merely the successor to the Flash's Red Mantle, but also the man who elevated the concept of speed to an unprecedented level. Born in Blue Valley, Nebraska, Wally is the nephew of Iris West, the beloved wife of Barry Allen, the second, the Flash. From a young age, Wally admired his uncle Barry and dreamed of one day being able to run as fast as the wind. That dream became reality when an accident in Barry's laboratory recreated the event that had created the Flash, transforming Wally into Kid Flash, the young partner of the Justice League. However, Wally West's true destiny began when Barry Allen sacrificed himself during the Crisis on Infinite Earths, using his speed to destroy the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon. This loss left a massive void in Wally's heart, but it also became the fire that pushed him forward, leading him to take up the Flash's mantle and become the protector of Central City. From that moment on, Wally no longer ran only for himself, but for Barry's legacy, for the people he loved, and for the belief that speed. Wally West's power originates from the Speed Force, a primordial dimension of energy. The Speed Force is not simply a source of energy, but the embodiment of all movement, all change, and the flow of time itself. When Wally connects with the Speed Force, he does not merely run faster, but becomes a part of the very concept of movement. At the peak of his power, Wally can run millions of times faster than the speed of light, break through the barriers of time, travel between dimensions, and even outrun death itself. Wally West's speed abilities far exceed every limit that humanity can imagine. He can run from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States in less than a second, circle the Earth thousands of times before a bullet can even leave the barrel of a gun, and travel between galaxies in less time than a heartbeat. However, speed is only the surface of his power. Wally can create wind vortices with destructive force comparable to a Category 5 hurricane, run across water, run up vertical walls, and even run through the air by creating footholds on air molecules. One of Wally's most terrifying abilities is his power to steal and distribute speed. He can drain the speed of any object, from a speeding bullet to a cosmic entity, causing it to freeze in place. Conversely, he can transfer speed to objects or other people, allowing them to move at unimaginable velocities. This ability makes Wally an extremely dangerous strategic weapon, because he does not need to defeat an enemy through physical strength, but can simply strip away their ability to move. Intangibility, also known as the ability to phase through matter, is one of Wally's most iconic techniques. By vibrating the molecules in his body at an extremely high frequency, Wally can pass through any solid matter, from steel walls to the energy armor of cosmic entities. At a higher level, he can make his opponents become intangible, causing their bodies to disintegrate at the molecular level. This is one of the most dangerous attacks in Wally's arsenal, because no physical armor can protect against molecular disintegration. Speed Force Lightning, or Speed Lightning, is a form of pure energy that Wally can release from his body. These bolts are not ordinary electricity, but pure Speed Force energy, capable of piercing through most defenses and causing damage at the molecular level. Wally can use use Speed Force Lightning as a long-range weapon, creating lightning storms that cover an entire city, or concentrating them into an energy drill capable of piercing highly durable entities. Wally's ability to travel through time is also a factor that cannot be overlooked. By running at an extreme level beyond the speed of light, Wally can break through the barrier of time and travel to any point in the past or future. He can create temporal remnants, copies of himself from different timelines, allowing him to fight on multiple fronts at the same time. Wally West's battles with formidable enemies have been numerous, but one of the most memorable was his confrontation with Zoom, also known as Hunter Zolomon, an enemy who possesses the ability to manipulate time rather than speed. Zoom does not run faster than Wally, but instead alters the flow of time around himself, making everything around him appear to slow down. This battle forced Wally to surpass every limit of his own abilities, running faster than even the concept of time itself in order to defeat Zoom. Another legendary battle was when Wally faced Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, the sworn enemy of the Flash family. Eobard Thawne was a scientist from the 25th century who became so obsessed with the Flash's legacy that he traveled back in time to become their greatest enemy. In this battle, Wally had to contend not only with the Reverse Flash's comparable speed, but also with the brutality and absolute determination of an enemy willing to destroy the entire timeline to achieve his goal. During the Flash War event, Wally was forced to face Barry Allen himself, the uncle he had once idolized, who had returned from the dead but was being manipulated by a dark entity. This battle was one of the most painful confrontations of Wally's life, because he had to fight the person he admired most. The two ran at speeds far beyond every known limit, creating explosions of Speed Force energy that tore through the space-time around them. Wally has also faced high-level cosmic entities whose power far exceeds every limitation of humanity. During the Flash Rebirth, Wally had to confront the negative Speed Force, a dark and opposing version of the Speed Force created by Robert Thawne. The negative Speed Force is the embodiment of destruction, entropy, and death, and it attempted to consume Wally, turning him into a part of eternal stillness. Wally emerged victorious by accepting both the light and darkness of the Speed Force, completely merging with the primordial source of energy and becoming an entity that transcended even the concept of speed. Wally has faced Darkseid, the tyrant of Apocalypse and one of the most powerful entities in the DC universe. Darkseid possesses the Omega effect, the ability to fire energy beams capable of erasing anything from existence. In this battle, Wally used his speed to evade the Omega beams, moving faster than Darkseid's ability to track him while unleashing thousands of attacks from every direction at once. However, Wally West is not without weaknesses. His greatest weakness lies in his heart and his connection to the people he loves. Wally fights for his family, his friends, and his belief that speed can protect those who are vulnerable. This can sometimes cause him to hesitate at critical moments, especially when his enemies use his loved ones as hostages. In addition, becoming too deeply connected to the Speed Force is also a double-edged sword. If Wally loses control, the Speed Force can consume him, turning him into a part of pure energy and erasing his individual existence.
I really hope you will subscribe to the channel. It would help us tremendously, and you are the greatest. Thank you so much.
Now, let's move on to Iceman. Bobby Drake, also known as Iceman, is one of the founding members of the X-Men and one of the most powerful Omega-level mutants to have ever existed. Born in Floral Park, Long Island, New York, Bobby discovered his mutant abilities as a teenager during a terrifying moment when he accidentally froze a bully inside a thick layer of ice. This incident caused Bobby to fear his own powers, and it took years under the guidance of Professor Charles Xavier for him to learn how to control and accept his mutant nature. However, unlike ordinary mutants, Bobby is an Omega-level mutant, meaning that the upper limit of his power is theoretically limitless. When Bobby fully unleashes his abilities, he can lower the temperature of any object to absolute zero, a state in which all molecular motion comes to a complete stop. This means Bobby can freeze anything from tiny water molecules to massive stars, from physical entities to pure forms of energy. Bobby's most basic ability is the creation and manipulation of ice. He can create ice structures with a level of complexity and durability far beyond natural ice, from defensive walls capable of withstanding thermonuclear explosions to razor-sharp weapons capable of cutting through the hardest metals. He can create ice storms that cover an entire city, freeze vast oceans, and generate massive icebergs in midair. However, these are merely the surface applications of his true power. At a higher level, Bobby can transform his body into organic ice, a state in which he is no longer made of flesh and blood, but becomes a living ice entity. In this state, Bobby is nearly impervious to physical attacks. Punches, bullets, and energy blasts can pass through his icy body without causing significant damage. He can regenerate his body from any source of water or moisture in the environment, making him nearly impossible to kill. Even if his entire ice body is completely destroyed, Bobby can still regenerate from the water vapor in the air. Bobby's ability to manipulate temperature is what makes him truly terrifying on a cosmic level. He does not simply create ice, but can lower the temperature of any object to absolute zero, or minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, all molecular motion stops, all chemical reactions cease, and every form of energy becomes frozen. This means Bobby can freeze energy streams, force fields, and even entities composed entirely of pure energy. One of Bobby's most impressive abilities is his capacity to sense and manipulate moisture on a planetary scale. He can sense every water molecule in the atmosphere, beneath the ground, and within the bodies of every living organism. This allows him to launch attacks from within an opponent's body, freezing the blood in their veins, or drain moisture from a vast area to create a barren desert. Bobby can also use this ability to travel instantaneously by transforming his body into water vapor at one location and reforming it at another. Bobby Drake's battles against formidable enemies have demonstrated the seemingly limitless potential of his power. One of his most memorable battles was when Bobby faced Mr. Sinister, one of the X-Men's most dangerous enemies. Mr. Sinister is a mad scientist with extensive knowledge of mutant genetics and biotechnology, and he has used weapons specifically designed to neutralize mutant abilities. In this battle, Bobby was initially overwhelmed by genetic suppression devices, but once he broke through those limitations, his power erupted with unprecedented intensity. Bobby froze Mr. Sinister's entire laboratory, from its high-tech equipment to its precious genetic samples, forcing him to retreat in terror. Another battle was when Bobby faced Black Tom Cassidy, a mutant with the ability to manipulate plant energy. Black Tom used his powers to create massive forests to attack the X-Men, and Bobby had to use his full abilities to freeze millions of tons of vegetation at once. The battle lasted for hours, with Bobby continuously creating ice storms to counter the relentless growth of the vegetation. In the end, Bobby emerged victorious by lowering the temperature of the entire area below absolute zero, freezing every water molecule within the plant's bodies and causing them to disintegrate into dust. During the House of M event, when reality was altered by the power of Scarlet Witch, Bobby was forced to confront alternate versions of his own teammates. Bobby became one of the most powerful entities, with the ability to freeze even abstract entities. One of Bobby's most brutal battles was when he faced Juggernaut, Cain Marco, an unstoppable entity protected by the Sidorak gem. Juggernaut cannot be stopped by any physical force, and his energy armor is immune to most attacks. However, Bobby proved that even Juggernaut could not resist the power of temperature. By lowering the temperature of the air around Juggernaut to extreme levels, Bobby created a layer of ice hundreds of meters thick around him, not to destroy his armor, but to deprive him of oxygen and space to move. Bobby has also faced high-level cosmic entities during the X-Men. Disassembled event, when his powers were fully unleashed, Bobby froze part of reality, creating a region of space where time and movement both came to a complete stop. Cosmic entities such as the Celestials and Abstracts were forced to take notice of the event because Bobby's ability to freeze both movement and time threatened the fundamental structure of the universe. During the Krakoa era, when mutants built a nation of their own, Bobby played an important role in protecting the island from external threats. He created enormous ice walls around Krakoa, defensive structures capable of withstanding attacks from cosmic entities. Bobby also faced Nimrod, a sentinel from the future, with the ability to adapt to and neutralize mutant powers. The battle lasted through multiple rounds, with Nimrod constantly adapting and developing new countermeasures. However, Bobby emerged victorious by continuously changing his tactics. However, Bobby Drake is not without weaknesses. His greatest weakness lies in his psychology. For most of his life, Bobby suppressed his powers, fearing the limitless potential he possessed. He was afraid that if he fully unleashed his power, he would lose his humanity and become a cold, emotionless entity. This fear prevented Bobby from reaching his full potential in many crucial battles, and only when pushed to the brink of despair did he truly unleash his power. In addition, although his ice body is nearly impervious, Bobby still requires a certain amount of moisture to maintain and regenerate his body. A battle between Wally West and Iceman is not simply a confrontation between speed and power, but a clash between absolute motion and absolute stillness, between a man who can run faster than time itself and a man who can freeze time itself. When it comes to pure speed, Wally West has an overwhelming advantage. He is the fastest entity to have ever existed in the DC universe. And although Bobby Drake possesses the superhuman reflexes of an Omega level mutant, he still cannot keep up with Wally's speed in a direct confrontation. Wally can unleash thousands of attacks in the time it takes Bobby to blink, move from every direction at once, and create temporal remnants to overwhelm his opponent through sheer numbers. In the opening seconds of the battle, Wally would have complete control over the pace, forcing Bobby to react rather than attack. However, speed is not everything. Bobby Drake possesses an almost absolute defense in his organic ice form. When Bobby completely transforms into ice, all of Wally's physical attacks become meaningless. Punches thrown at the speed of light would pass straight through Bobby's icy body without causing damage. Speed Force Lightning, no matter how powerful, would also be absorbed and dispersed by the molecular structure of Bobby's organic ice. Wally would quickly realize that he cannot defeat Bobby through pure physical force. Wally's intangibility is a crucial weapon in this battle. By vibrating at the proper frequency, Wally can phase through Bobby's icy body and attack his energy core directly. However, Bobby can also alter the vibrational frequency of his ice body, making it impossible for Wally to find the correct frequency to phase through him. In terms of energy abilities, both possess primordial sources of power. Wally is connected to the Speed Force, the source of energy behind all movement throughout the DC Multiverse. Bobby manipulates temperature, a fundamental property of matter and energy. In theory, Bobby could freeze even the Speed Force by lowering its temperature to absolute zero, bringing all movement within this energy source to a complete stop. However, the Speed Force is not an ordinary form of energy, but a dimension that exists parallel to reality, and freezing it would require Bobby to extend the range of his influence beyond three-dimensional space. Wally West is a highly experienced fighter who has faced countless enemies, from ordinary thieves to high-level cosmic entities. He knows how to use his speed creatively, creating unexpected and unpredictable attacks. Bobby Drake, by contrast, usually fights defensively and reactively, waiting for his opponent to attack before countering. However, when Bobby fully unleashes his power, he becomes an entirely different entity, cold, calculating, and incredibly ruthless. In terms of psychological warfare, Wally West fights with a burning heart, driven by his love for his family and his belief in justice. He never gives up, never stops, and always seeks to protect the innocent. Bobby Drake, by contrast, fights with the stillness of ice, with infinite patience and the ability to wait for the perfect moment. In a prolonged battle, Bobby's patience could be an advantage, because he does not need to attack. He only needs to freeze the environment around Wally and wait for him to become exhausted. However, Wally never becomes exhausted while connected to the Speed Force, because its energy is limitless. However, there is one important factor to consider. The Speed Force is the source of energy behind all movement, while temperature is essentially a measure of molecular motion. This means that when Bobby freezes all movement, he is essentially opposing the very nature of the Speed Force itself. Conversely, when Wally runs, he generates heat and motion, countering Bobby's attempts to freeze him. These two powers are opposite sides of the same coin, and the battle between them becomes an endless cycle. Even so, after analyzing every factor, from physical strength and energy abilities to combat psychology and historical battles, I have reached my final verdict. In a confrontation in their base states, with no prior preparation and no outside interference, Bobby Drake would be the winner. The reason lies in the fundamental nature of his power. No matter how fast speed becomes, it is still motion, and motion can be stopped. Bobby does not need to be faster than Wally. He only needs to freeze the space around Wally, stripping away the environment he needs to move. When every molecule of air, every particle of dust, and every ray of light is frozen, Wally will have nothing left to run on. He will be trapped within a region of absolute stillness, where the Speed Force cannot function because no movement exists. But in a real battle, where both remain physical entities, Bobby Drake would be the last one standing. He would watch Wally fall beneath a layer of eternal ice and prove that in this universe, stillness will always defeat motion, because every movement will eventually stop, every flame will eventually go out, and every star will eventually grow cold. Wally West may be the fastest being to have ever existed, but Bobby Drake is the one who can stop everything. And in a confrontation between the fastest man alive and the man who can stop everything, the one who can stop everything will always win.
And that is our analysis of the battle. Let us know what you think by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy these matchups, do not forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss any of the ultimate battles. I hope you enjoyed this battle. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. That is all for today's video. Thank you very much.